Get them fired up and get them to the staging lanes, baby, because 8th Mile Apparel is now carrying Going Bracket Racing merch. Hats, t-shirts, hoodies, and much more can be yours today by visiting 8thmileapparel.com. We appreciate each and every one of you guys supporting the Going Bracket Racing YouTube and Facebook pages.
What's up, everybody? Casey and George back July 4th weekend, episode 160 of GBR live every single Tuesday on Facebook, YouTube, podcast format on the weekends. Anything you need, we got you covered over here. Anything in the world of bracket racing or drag racing in general at times, or worldly things. Sometimes we get a little bit off in the weeds over here, mainly me, not necessarily George, but he'll follow me along the way. July 2nd, 2024. And we always got to thank those people that provide this for you live every single week for free. TSR Racing Products, BRG 3D printed parts, Syntex Printing out there in Temple, Texas. Driven Racing Oil, where you can get oil, transmission fluid, rear end oil, all kinds of stuff that you need. Get you some of that 1540 for that diesel truck or motorhome that you tow all your stuff to the racetrack with. And most importantly, use the code GBR10 whenever you do, because it gets you 10% off. And there is no limit on that. Use that code GBR10. Save yourself some money. Proform Parts. Visit proformparts.com and pick and choose some things and send us an email over there at goingbracketracing@gmail.com or hit us up on the Facebook page and tell us what kind of giveaways that you would like to have, because I got a big old list of things that we need to pick through. George, I forgot to get a hold of you today. We were both at work today until right now, actually. So now we're here with everybody else. And we're going to pick through some things and pick through a list and give some things away to all of you loyal followers every single week. Once a month, something like that. So you guys need to pay attention live, because that's whenever we're going to give it away. Crew Chief Pro Software, get that dial in figured out. It's 100 degrees outside, guys. George said it over there, 100 degrees here in Texas. We had Super Comp over here asking how hot it is. It's very, very hot. I can tell you that. It's been so hot that they're actually canceling things out here. So, Crew Chief Pro Software, if you are racing, it's 100 degrees outside, and you only got those 70-degree runs, Don Higgins will get it all figured out for you and tell you what kind of variables you need to look at to figure out what's going on. And, of course, check out the Easy Lights. So that way, whenever you're racing at night, hopefully you're not racing in that hot sun, especially in July. But if you are racing at night, you get the opportunity to race at night under the lights. Easy Light will light it up for you out there in the fuel area region. Over there on your fuel cell, looking straight down in there. Works great on my fast car, where it's just pitch black under the hood, and you can see where your fuel level is so you don't overflow it, especially if you're running gas, because that stuff gets a little expensive out here. I wouldn't know. I run methanol over here, George. I'm trying to do it economically. But, yeah, you want one of these tree chopper shirts that I have on right now? Maybe I'm lying, maybe I'm not, but nobody in the staging lanes will know. Visit 8thmileapparel.com for your GBR hats, hoodies, T-shirts. And if you're going to the WFC, you better buy you one of those Piss On Delay Boxes shirts, because we got that just for you guys. So, you WFC champions, if you're in the winner circle, don't have one of them on, I don't know what you're doing, man. You need to represent.
I heard that. Man. Just turn around and point to it, too. As soon as Motor Mania puts you on the camera for your winner circle interview, just turn around, give yourself a couple of thumbs down to that Piss On Delay Boxes old shirt that you might have on there. But Casey, man, it's hot, dude. And I don't have anything else I can say about that. It's hot. Air conditioner is doing good in the house, but if you step outside too long, prepare to burn up. Don't go outside barefoot. Your bottom of your feet will be cooking. So We don't have time for that either, man. Hey, what's going on? I see Kevin Little and Jimmy Nobles in the house. I seen Jimmy had Larry done. I call him Larry because Mo gonna slap the mess out of him. I already made that joke. I don't know how many times. You better keep Larry away from Mo in them staging lanes, Jimmy. Old door truck on door truck crime might have to happen there, man. But nice looking ride. Jimmy Noble's power under the hood, looking real good. Can't wait to see what that thing can do, man. But thanks for joining us for a day. Casey, otherwise, man, not much going on this weekend. I think I heard something going on in Paris, Texas, for as far as for racing for me. I don't think I'm gonna make it, and probably just do something for the kids on the 4th of July, man. What you got going on this weekend for yourself?
I don't even know, man. I really don't know, to be honest with you. Coastal Plains has a whole lot of racing out there. They got some fuel cars out there. So anybody local to the North Carolina, Jacksonville area, something like that, you want to go out there and smell some nitro. You want to see some flames blown out of some cars at nighttime. You want to see a wheel stander. That's the place to go for all that stuff. I want to say gates open over there at 4 o'clock. I think all of the pro session stuff starts around 7:30, 8:30. So you want to get in there, get yourself a hot dog and maybe a cold beverage and watch some craziness that you don't get to see very often. So that's kind of what we got going on out here right now. I know that, well, that'll be all after the sun goes down, so that won't be so bad. But all I know is it's been crazy how nice it was yesterday, and then it was extremely nice today as well. And but after that, it's just going to start up, up, up. We're going to be back into the 90s, hundreds area. July in North Carolina, man.
July, yeah, man. I'm honest. I don't know if I was dreaming last night or what, but I was contemplating taking off July, August, and coming back at it into September as far as for how my racing operation goes. I wonder how common that is here in Texas, to be honest, because man, it's hot out there right now. I've got I'm pretty have a sense of staying hydrated and consider myself to be somewhat athletic still. So I know I can battle some of it, but it's all about taking my kids who are really important at that age right now where they're starting to fall into some drag racing. So I'm getting asked a whole lot more often, "Hey Dad, can we go to the racetrack?" And I'm like, "Man, it's gonna be 105 outside. I'm not taking either one of you jokers out there to feel what that's like." Then number two, to hear you whine about the whole time we're there, to hear you whine about how hot it is. You know how that goes, guys. So, but yeah, no, man, it ought to be. I'm hoping I get out next week, man. I think there's a race out at Extreme Raceway. I don't think I'm gonna be missing it. It's gonna be hot, but I'm probably gonna be there either way it goes. So that's about what's all on my schedule, man.
Cool, man. What are we talking about today, man?
I think it ought to be a good topic today. As we pivot, we had a guest on the way for today. I figure he probably got pretty busy, especially the amount of money that he's going to be putting up at his next race. I'll leave you guys to wonder who I'm talking about, but figured we pivot to something that we've always talked about here at GBR, not necessarily in depth, as in spent the whole show to kind of go into what we are looking at, quote unquote, racing the flyer style, right? So there's a lot of things we can go into. Casey, I don't know where you want to start first, but the first place I'd like to go, and I think you've seen this flyer before. I'm not going to show it live on the screen unless I get some asks in the chat there. I'll do it that way. But Pennington Brothers Single Shot Showdown flyer is where I want to start, Casey, especially considering the size of the races, where the races are, the guaranteeing of the purses, and it being an inaugural race, meaning we'll see it for the next 20 years, I think, personally. It was that well ran. It was at XRP, Extreme Raceway Park, for those of you who don't know what XRP is out there in Paris, Texas. Beautiful facility. Kicking off Thursday, Casey. Let's just start with Thursday with a all-run 5K warm-up. $5,000 to win, $100 to enter. So right off the rip, the flyer is inviting. Inside of that $100 is a test and tune. And if you don't want to run for $5,000, which I don't know any of us who are going to go test and tune with a $5 that's going on just a couple seconds after you get done running your only entry, which there's probably 10 of you that just played test and tune money. Come back into the lanes to run some for a first round 5K. $40 if you didn't want to run the 5K. Casey, talk to me, man. That's if you're starting off a race at a warm up, especially at the local level. $5,000 is the win. $750 is the runner up. $250 to semis, and quarters at $75 with a $50 buyback. Talk to me about how enticing that is for us local racers, those of us who don't necessarily go to the big money scene.
Oh yeah, man. Especially if you tie it in with the test and tune, it's kind of like you were saying earlier. If you're giving them test and tune with that, then you're figuring test and tune bare minimum is going to be $30, sometimes $40, $50 at these big events. So you're talking, yes, it says $100 to run for that $5,000, but it's really more like $50, $60. So, I mean, where are you going to get the chance to run $50, $60 entry fee to run for $5,000? I mean, that rarely happens. And if it does, it's part of a whole nother big event usually. That's more
right.
along that's more along of a gambler's race, but it doesn't just pay the winner. It pays everybody.
Right.
It pays like your normal positions.
Right.
So as far as your local racer goes, that's a good event right there. The thing that I liked in the entire process of that whole deal of what you were explaining was the single shot aspect of it.
Yeah.
That's the reason why I've always liked gamblers races. I like the fact that they're always quick because they're always in addition to some other sort of program, be it a test and tune, be it a big event, be it just a filler like, oh, we finished early, guys. We didn't have any oil downs, nobody hit the wall or anything. We got some extra time before curfew. Let's run a gamblers race if you guys want to. And they're ran really quickly. So there's not enough time for people to enter. There's not enough time for people to share cars typically. And I've just always liked the aspect that gamblers races and gambler style races are more fun to me because I've always noticed that towards the end of the night, when a gambler's race would typically happen, you'll get times where people run up to the tower, hey, you gonna have a gambler's race? Well, I don't really know if we're gonna have one yet. Well, how much you think it'll be? Oh, it'll be $50, $100 or whatever. Okay, well, here's my money. Write my name down because I want to be in it. And then they go on through the night and they figure they're not going to have it. And someone else, for whatever reason, they're like, oh, I'm tired. Oh, I've started drinking beer and hanging out or whatever. Or, oh, I'm eating food. I'm cooking or whatever. Hey, get so-and-so's kid, go run my car. And they're just more fun because no one expects to do any good really, or they don't have any, like, they just don't care. Or people say, hey, let's put so-and-so's kid in my car and we'll get 20 over here and 30 over here and 50 over here and we'll make the entry fee and go dial them up 2 tenths and see what happens.
See what happens, yeah. Kind of like game playing almost. It's more so a little bit more lax. That's why I like this this style of a format on this single shot national or single shot showdown flyer that I'm looking at. Now, I know you've already alluded to the old school 10K in a sense, Casey. It's single shot. You go down, one car go down, one car comes back style. Well, that race is embedded as more so the marquee race of the whole event, in my opinion. And that happened on Saturday night with the old school 10K, where there's no doubles, there's no buybacks, there's no minimum car count. But surrounding that, Casey, they had a Friday and Saturday event. That was the main event, which is the 10K to win, 2,500 runner-up, 100 to semis, $100 round money. And single day entry was 200. I think re-entry may have been 100. Yeah, re-entry was 100. So it's interesting on this flyer. You kind of get the best of both worlds in what I would consider, and I think you do as well, Casey, something that's going to end up happening very soon in our sport. A lot of single shot, no doubles style big money bracket races. I think this is a precursor to that. You may even see that happen at some of the more local 10Ks, smaller venues, and it gets too stinking hot around here. Well, if you're going down on single shot, you can get it done a whole lot faster if you're starting at, say, 4 p.m. instead of starting at 4 p.m. and ending at 3 a.m. because you allowed so many buybacks. So these are things that are enticing for a flyer and that grab the racer to come to said race. Not to mention the junior dragsters and the duck race and all the other things that actually happen at this race, Casey. What else did you see, man, or any other comments behind the Pennington Brothers single shot showdown idea? This was excellent. I'm kind of mad I missed it, but I had good reason, guys. I had good reason.
Well, this is following in the shoes of Peter Biondo, which happens a lot. In fact, most of the time, the Fling series pretty much sets the standard for what can be done and is known for trying new things and whatnot. And one of the things that they've started to not necessarily try, but been successful at in the last 2 times they've done it is they've thrown a single entry only event. And I wonder, since they've sold out in like 5 minutes, Dan Fletcher at the end of this year is throwing a 250 car capped event at Galat. And that pre-entry opens, I want to say, sometime in August. And it's a single entry type event. So I wonder if it's gotten to the point that the thing that everybody hates about having 500, 600, 700 entries is you run first round and then you're going to run second round like 12 hours later. And you're like, man, I'm not even in the mood to be racing now. It's like a whole different day, basically.
Right.
And to be honest with you, if you're somebody other than the fact you would have to pay the buyback, if you put that all aside, if you're somebody who runs first round and loses and then runs second round or runs re-entry round, I should say, and then going into second round and you've just made a run within the last 2 hours and no one else there has made a run for 12 hours, at least 50% of them haven't, then you have a very clear advantage over everybody else. But I wonder, because of the number of cars we have showing up to these big money races now, you got to remember the reason double entry even existed to begin with was to push the top number on the flyer up without having more cars on the premises. That's why it existed. So people double entering, I mean, this is common sense. Anybody who double enters, you show up with 1 car, that car is now 2 cars. Even if you showed up with 2, now you have 2 entries. So there's two cars entered. If you show up with 2 cars and me and you, for some reason, have a lot of money, then we can both double those. That's 4. So
Right.
It artificially increases the car count. So is it time? This is something we've talked about on this show a couple times. Is it time that some of these big money races go back to single entry?
Yeah, now that's exactly what I'm leaning to, and the precursor was this single shot showdown, or even what you said, the Biondo and Spring Fling boys going up on that mountain and saying, "Hey, we got too many cars out here. Here's your chance at single shot." Now, I'm not for sure there's no buybacks in that race, but
No, there's not. There's buybacks in the Fling. There wasn't in the Penningtons, though.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So in Pennington, I'm more so referencing Biondo's race, the Spring Fling guys up at Bristol. I think there were still buybacks, or there will be buybacks in the upcoming single enter event. But I know before we've seen Pennington, or excuse me, Biondo say we have to wipe out buybacks because we have too many stinking cars out here.
Because
you know what I mean?
Doubles.
That because of the doubles, because of the amount of entries, and even at that particular event, I think it was just the amount of cars based on there was just a lot of cars on the mountain that race. You know what I mean? So, very interesting to see that for sure. But as we keep talking, Casey, we have to bring up what I would call an elephant in the room, and I'm kind of throwing this on you. There are a lot of us who races the flyer. Talk to me about the importance of the flyer staying the same and your thoughts on how that could impact car count. What do you think?
Well, in my opinion, once the flyer is released, that needs to be what it's going to be. The fact of the matter is, if you're, even if you only change it one time, then someone's going to start. If you do that time after time after time, someone's going to look at that and they're going to say, well, I'm going to show up, and I guess by the time I get there, I'm going to know what I'm running for.
Especially in a case of which we're talking about, the majority of us, we're not going to a race until we have reviewed, dissected, thought about, ran it past our wives, if that be the case, accounted for fuel, accounted for the amount of cars we thought were going to be there, things of that nature. Because I'm sure I'm not the only one who looks at a flyer and says, is this the race I want to go to? Especially when there's a race closer that has a flyer either better or worse. We all race the flyer to some extent, and hopefully this isn't breaking news to anyone that the flyer is so. That's why flyers are so pretty nowadays, in my opinion. Not for the fact that, oh, that pretty is just going to entice everybody to look at it. No, you're going to look at all of it, to dissect it, to kind of figure out why you're choosing said event. So I'm definitely leaning, in my opinion, there's a race that happens before every race, and that is called racing the flyer. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, again, ultimately, whenever you get down to it, the reason you attend a race is because of what the flyer looks like. Like, is ultimately what's the top number on it? That's what a lot of people look at. First thing they look at is the top number. Second thing they look at is the entry fee. Third thing they look at is what type of credentials are, like, is it a door car race? Is it a dragster race? Are door cars and dragsters separated? Like, all that stuff, nobody cares about that, I don't think. I think what they care about more than anything is what's the top number, what's the entry fee? And that always needs to stay the same. And obviously weather, I moved my earphones around here, so I'm messing around with those. But ultimately are those two things going to be the same? That's what matters. It all needs to stay the same within reason. The date may need to change due to weather or extenuating circumstances, things like that. And that's understandable. A lot of people understand that. And a lot of people, to be honest with you, I think try to push through and have a race. And if it's one of these mega races, like, for example, the Great American 500K coming up, or the Fall Fling 500K, or the millions we've had in the past, those things are like capstone type things. If they're rescheduled, the people running those races that are entered in those races, they're going to get off work to run those races. That's not a problem. I think a lot of times that people will reschedule a race or push a race back to the following week. And if it's like, say, 10s or like 555s or a 5-10-5, something like that, I don't think that a lot of that level of people, those are typical weekend racers that took the Friday off to be able to go race that. And they're going to go back to work on Monday. I don't know that they can get off the next week.
Next Friday.
I think a lot of people try to push through on things that they don't necessarily need to do. And they're taking unnecessary risk to do so.
Kevin Little's making a good point here about racing the flyer. And one subject that we know is probably crucial to any big money event right now. Like, I don't think you can have a big money event without round money. Casey, we called that out a long time ago on this show, and then all of a sudden, it wasn't because we called it out that I know of, but people started to catch on to the fact that participation increases when you have round money. If we were to take a consensus on Going Bracket Racing community to see how many people would go to a race that is bigger in money, because it's tougher at the local event level unless you're running at the Twin Tens out there in Havana at Mid-State Dragway, who have round money embedded into their 10Ks. Okay, you don't see that very often. I could be speaking out of turn, Casey. You have to correct me if I'm wrong, but you don't see round money in a 10K event very often. Generally, you see money back to the 8ths, and that's getting lucky, or maybe even the 16th. I think CP may go back down towards the 16th somewhere. I think. Don't quote me. I have to get one of his flyers pulled up, but definitely another thing that everyone looks at when they're racing against that flyer is that round money. And in my opinion, if you take round money away from racing right now in today's market, I feel like you're setting yourself up for eventual failure, or at least eventual growth, whichever way you want to look at it. Because if you put it on there, you may not fail, but you'll see very quickly that without round money, your car count may not be as efficient. What do you think, Casey?
I would agree with that because I think that ultimately there's a lot of racers that have followed a lot of these mega races throughout the last 5 years, 6 years, 8 years, something like that, when they really started kicking off. And I think a lot of them are figuring out that there's only 3 or 4 people that really make a good amount of money at those races. And there's a lot of people that are happy with evening out, or happy with only losing X amount of dollars, or happy with covering the tab at the racetrack and then only paying diesel fuel to get there and maintenance on the car and things like that. The further you can push that back, the more money you can put in people's pockets. I don't care, really what it is. I think there's a lot of people out there that if they get a little taste of it, those people will continue to come back because they got a little taste. It's just like anything. You get a little taste, you're like, man, next round I would have doubled that,
Right.
And I was almost there and I barely lost, like I barely got beat. I would have beat anybody else that round. I was 12 total and my opponent was 11 total, or I was 6 total and my opponent was 2 total, or something stupid,
Right.
That's, I think a lot of people are figuring that out. But we got a couple comments that are really good over here in the YouTube chat. First one I'll go with. They're 2 different topics, but we'll start with this one. We'll go to the next one here in a second. Robert Ellison, I dislike when there's a 2-day race and one of them gets rained out. So you run one race with the payout double. What are your thoughts on that?
It's a magic trick in my opinion, and I'm just going to leave it at that. Because if you pay attention to it, something just doesn't add up 100%. In my opinion, I am not a promoter. I don't know 100%, Casey, and you are you're definitely far better than me at math. So I'll leave that thought alone and let you kind of handle that one a little bit if you remember to do so in your spiel. But that whole deal is kind of tough on racers. I more so prefer, if we have enough time, to shut down a race and continue it marathon style than to see races combined on top of another race. But again, it's not going to stop me from competing. I'm going to go out there, I'm going to strap my helmet on, I'm going to do what I got to do regardless. And at the same time, I'm kind of selfish in the sense that I'm talking for myself, but when a race rained out, and if I'm doing well at it, especially if I'm in a groove, it ends that groove for the day. Or if I'm not in a groove, well, it ends a couple more rounds of racing, preferably or potentially, that I could have competed in to get myself in a little bit better of a groove for the next day. So I actually like it whenever everything runs exactly how it's listed on the flyer, and understand that there's situations to why the flyer, weather being probably the best situation in my opinion, why the flyer would be changed for some reason, or for better purpose. I could even be talking to you about the Fling Boys. If I were out on that mountain and it comes down the pipeline that there's no buybacks, but I budgeted myself to come to this race and buy back. This is the race that I selected based on knowing that I would have this many opportunities to go down the racetrack. Even if I have to spend $3,000 to do it, I'm not going to be a happy camper if buybacks get canceled. Okay, that's just who I am based on racing a flyer. What are your thoughts, Casey, though, on that question?
It's texting back Troy Abercrombie about something during that deal, but anyway. My thoughts are, I've participated in races before that are supposed to be 3-day events and end up being 2-day events, and it's because of weather, and that's something that no promoter wants to happen, and it's not something that they can control either. So it's not their fault at all. However, the thing that I've always hated about it is when it's a 3-day event, I look at everything as a whole. And when I look at everything as a whole, I say, okay, this is a good deal because I'm racing this many times for this much money. And maybe I'm one of the few people that do this, but I go to the race to race. Like, I'm not as concerned about what the payout is. I'm not as concerned about what the round money is. I'm concerned with what the entry fee is. And if I can afford that entry fee and I can afford losing that amount of money and come back with nothing, that I just spent or that I assume I will spend, then that's how I race, because I race as a hobby. If the hobby pays for itself, I'm happy. If the hobby makes me money, I'm even happier. But I drive race cars because I like race cars, and I like working on cars, and I like tuning cars and seeing the car do better than it was last week because of changes I made.
Right.
And that might be few and far between, but that's how I race. So the problem is whenever they combine races, that makes it not a good deal for me anymore.
Right.
Now, that being said, in that event that it happened, because they combined the races and because the round money was combined and all that stuff, I ended up making money off that event. I ended up basically doubling the money that I put down. I ended up making that money back and then taking that much back home with me. So it worked out.
Right.
But it also could have went the other way where you raced less and spent the same amount.
Right.
So,
Right. No, man, it's just a lot to dissect there too. And I'm looking at another comment here. I just want to bring it up. It's a little off subject in my opinion, but it's a comment. We try to read all your guys' comments here on GBR because you are the GBR community, what keeps us moving in the first place. Bracket Racer 1. Why do I pay cash to get into the event, but I don't get cash back when I win money? Well, that's called business, in my opinion, my friend. Generally speaking, when somebody's paying out straight cash, we all know why. That's just the best way I can put it, and hopefully you caught my laugh, right? But in order to, especially at these bigger races and these local racetracks, I've heard horror stories of people paying cash and then next year not being open. So let's take the check, pay our taxes, and keep moving is the politically correct answer to that question, I believe. Casey, anything to add?
I've often wondered that also, and I've said that a couple times because ultimately, accounting is accounting. It doesn't matter how you're paying somebody. Anybody who pays anybody in any way through a business is supposed to record that amount of money. Yes, it's a little more difficult whenever you have cash. Yes, it's a little more complicated if you ever get audited. But ultimately, accounting books are accounting books, and how people claim it, that's their own deal.
Sure.
I think, honestly, you would stand to probably get more racers in trouble if the promoter ever got audited, I guess.
Yep.
Because
who's going to actually report it?
Because if they did it legit,
right,
and you didn't report it, now the auditor's like, well, this guy doesn't have it on his income statement, and you say you paid him, and now that guy's going to get audited, and now he's going to get in trouble for it. So I think really
it's a wash almost.
Promoter.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it's a wash. I think it's honestly the promoter is actually saving a lot of people that don't realize they're being saved.
I get
is what I think.
I get what you're saying for sure. I'm expecting a call here in a little bit. I don't know if he's called in yet, Casey, but we may be having a guest here in a few minutes. But in the meantime, it's a good point right here, right now, to cut to our commercial break. And if you have to watch a few more commercials after this, I promise you won't be disappointed at what we have to offer here at Going Bracket Racing. Our marketing partners do a great job for the racer. So make sure you hit that follow button, that subscribe button, hit that share button, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your race car driver buddies, tell everybody you know about Going Bracket Racing. Try to get the bleachers, virtual bleachers, as full as possible. Hang in there. We'll be right back with more on Racing the Flyer here at Going Bracket Racing. Hang on.
TV promotions.
It's the Larice Motorsports Insurance 250K, presented by Autoland Outlets. Join us July 25th through the 28th at US 131 Motorsports Park in Martin, Michigan. Pre-entry opens May 14th for just $15.99, gets you into 250s and a $250K to win race. And if it sells out, you get $100 back. So join us this summer, the only place to be. The Larice Motorsports Insurance 250K, presented by Autoland Outlets.
Unleash your horsepower with Proform Super Street aluminum roller rockers. Utilize the latest cutting-edge manufacturing and design processes. The dual contoured body design allows for more rigidity with a greater strength-to-weight ratio, increasing engine power. Super Street aluminum roller rockers are available for a variety of applications and specs for Chevy, GM, and Ford, including pedestal mount, as well as a Chrysler shaft mount style rockers. On the strip or the street, Proform has you covered.
BRG Motorsports 3D printed racing parts are able to provide you with whatever you desire to enhance your drag racing operation. Items like safety belt magnets, nitrous bottle holders, and even quick release delay box mounts are able to be obtained from BRG Motorsports 3D printed racing parts. Have a look at top selling items such as helmet hooks and steering wheel hooks, which are proven to make it easier to maneuver throughout your race car. You can contact BRG Motorsports 3D printed racing parts at telephone number 765-729-1177.
Innovation never sleeps at Proform, and we're making our popular Black Race Series carburetors even better by adding new features that will set them apart from the competition. Some of the newest features include a newly designed main body with contoured Venturas for better airflow and a new inside and outside two-step down leg boosters for increased atomization and better throttle response. Also, newly designed fuel bowls with increased internal baffling for better fuel control and a lower fuel ramp for reduced turbulence. There are also some new upgrades to point out. The fuel bowls now both include nitrofill floats, and the throttle base plate now has slab shafts for better airflow. These new features, combined with a fully adjustable high-flow main body with screw-in air bleeds, billet metering blocks, high-performance billet throttle base plate, and aluminum fuel bowls with sight glass windows, makes for a great street strip carburetor that packs a punch.
Welcome back, guys. Going Bracket Racing. This is episode 160, Casey. 160 of them. Thanks to you guys in the GBR community for sticking with us for 160 episodes, give or take. I know we started off as two enthusiastic young chaps, however you want to put it, coming to the game to talk about some racing. We might have had a few episodes where it was just me and Casey on the screen. Well, here now we, coming live to about 50 or 60 of you at a time every now and then, and maybe 700 and something views later on in the day. So keep your eyes open for maybe a few changes. Casey and I are milling over a few changes with the time to give a little bit better opportunity for those of you who are actually on the road driving home. We know we don't want to put you in position where you're rolling past a Nabo and you get pulled over because you got your cell phone out and you're looking at it instead of looking at the road. Well, we'll work on that for you. Special shout out to all of our marketing partners, Team 14 Motorsports, as always, been here with GBR since inception. Ken Jones Performance as well. Syntex Printing out there in Temple, Texas. You wasn't very far behind any of those. TSR, you've been here from the jump as far as I'm aware. Proform, you've been here for a few years now. I know for sure. I don't have the exact timing on things like that, but I know you've been here a few years. Crew Chief Pro, a couple years in there with us. You guys need to get them dial-ins down. Don Higgins he's got the key to the mix for you guys to be able to do so. Driven Racing Oil has been here for quite a while. BRG Motorsports 3D printed racing parts as well. Hey, I seen that Dominator adapter you put together too. That looked pretty doggone good. So good work over there, and thanks to everybody who's helping GBR here. As we continue with the show, you may see somebody over there sitting next to Casey, even though he's in a whole nother state. Oh, Britt Cummings decided to jump in with us. Britt, what's going on, brother?
Man, we got everything from a water slide going down, the heat like it is in Texas, parking lot striping, track resurfacing. We got all kind of stuff going on here today.
Got it moving, huh? That's what I like to hear, man. That means business is good, right?
Oh yeah,
for
sure.
Oh yeah. Britt, we were talking about there before you joined. I think you may have heard a little bit. We were talking about this particular show is called Racing the Flyer. And it seems as if you got a flyer with a quite a few zeros on it. If I looked at that correctly, that's going to be dropping. It's probably already dropped, but at least the pre-entry side of that flyer is about to go underway. Would care to drop any news for us here about that flyer?
July 9th, 6 p.m. Registration starts. We're taking 385 entries. That's all I can say. Last year was a test year for Montgomery International Raceway. It's been proven that there's no issues there. New owners, they spent a lot of money. No timing system issues, no track issues. He just poured 110 foot of concrete. This year, you better get in while you fit in.
You heard it here too, guys. Casey, you care to elaborate on the flyer? I'm going to pull it up here in just a couple of seconds here, but we've seen this rodeo, and I'm expecting the full 8 seconds in rodeo speak for this year as well. Casey, anything to add?
I'll try to cut it shorter because we all know that I could just go on talking about nothing the whole time. But there's a lot to talk about on this whole deal because it's got triple 40s. It's a progressive purse, $500,000 to win deal. Britt, just tell us, I guess, Great American's been around a very long time. And I guess everybody says, the economy's doing bad. Oh, big money's going out. People have been saying that for like 5 years, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. I mean, Great American's been putting on these major races ever since I can remember before we started doing this show. But how does the Great American brand just continually put on successful events year after year after year? Because you don't really have, a lot of races, a lot of series kind of go up and down, but Great American just kind of seems like it stays at the top all the time. What you guys do differently than others that makes people just have a huge desire to go to your events?
Well, my wife was sitting here looking at me and said, "Don't you tell no secrets." Ain't your Chinese secret. But no, we don't really do anything different. And it kind of fits in with y'all's show today, racing the flyer. At all times, at any race we go to, myself, Galen, and Tommy, we carry the flyer in our back pocket. If someone comes and asks us a question, we pull out the flyer and say, "Here it is right here." That's what we're doing. Or are y'all going to change the schedule? We're going by the flyer in most cases. Schedule's still subject to change, but consistency, going over and beyond the flyer is, I guess, is kind of our little niche we have.
Yeah, that's a true statement.
Another question I wanted to ask you, based on our show last week, we talked, I'm sure, obviously you're friends with Jared Pennington and the Colberg promotions team and everything. You saw everything about the excessive braking issue. We talked all show last week about excessive braking and how it's been getting progressively worse and worse and worse. Now, obviously, your family as a whole has not necessarily excessive braking, but you've always been known to hold a lot of numbers, especially Slate. But he's never out of control. In fact, you were on the track whenever Corey had the predicament at the OG Million several years back.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think the case of excessive braking has gotten progressively worse because of the cell phone cameras and GoPros. In my opinion, if you take that away, a lot of the excessive braking goes away. But you're never going to get rid of it, so you're still going to have it. And I'm glad to see that Jared and them's going to, come out with that rule. We'll see how it goes. I kind of read, if you have tire smoke come off of your car, it's excessive braking. I don't know that I quite agree with that because our Nova, you can just touch the brakes and the front tire smoke, and it's still in control. I think it still has to be subject. I don't know. It's a little bit of a gray area there. What is excessive tire smoke? Is it crashing while it's tire smoking? It's a lot of subjectivity there.
Yeah.
But wouldn't you say also that, for example, with the Great American Series, you guys are all racers. Jared's a racer. Like, what excessive braking is. You guys have been doing it a long time. A lot of the guys that are doing excessive braking, you guys were racing before they were born. So, in my opinion, having people like you make the decision. I said it last week on the show, especially having Motor Mania around and stuff like that. You can be like, look, man, here's the video. Like, you telling me you don't agree with this? 99% of guys are going to be like, all right, man, that my fault.
You're right.
You know,
And on top
You're
of
right.
that, too, on top of that, I've been to a Great American Bracket Race, the Dream Team Challenge, I believe, is what I went to. And Britt, I've seen you personally at the finish line, watching to see what's actually going on as a spotter yourself. You know what I mean? And I think that may eventually come down to kind of what's going to be successful in implementing the rule, or even calling it out as the naked eye, as opposed to not only the naked eye, but that added to the stream, added to the sounds of the track, things of that nature will allow a broad picture of the race itself. Like you said, you're Nova, you could tap the brakes. It doesn't matter where you are on the track, you tap the brakes and you're gonna blow the tires a little bit, you know. So I think the naked eye and kind of good judgment, which I would say you guys definitely have the ability to do as well. You can comment on that one, Britt, because I know you watch down there. I know you watch.
Yeah, I watch, and I'm down there for not only that reason. I like seeing guys do work down there.
Yep.
Case in point, I think it was at the last Guaranteed Million in Montgomery. You have Nick Hastings and Dan Fletcher. Nick hit the brakes no more than he usually does. He swapped lanes and hit the guardrail. His wind light came on. It was after the finish line. He hit the guardrail. He tapped the guardrail, and came back the next round. And I think he won a couple more rounds after that. But in my opinion, that is kind of the gray area. It was situational. What was the dew was falling. Did he do anything different than he's done 1,000 other times? No, he did not. Shane Carr. Talked to him after his little incident up at that race, and he said, I didn't do anything different. I didn't stop no harder than I usually do the other 10,000 runs I've made. And before I even talked to Shane, I commented, people were saying excessive braking, he should be thrown out, this and that and other, and I'm like, not Shane. That's not Shane to excessive brake. I mean, it was situational. Was there a miss of something on the track? I mean, what was the dew points? I don't know. I wasn't there, but Shane is not that guy.
Right.
And you're naming a lot of very successful racers that have been doing it a long time and drive like that time after time after time. And ultimately, I want to clarify like what I was saying earlier also, like, my point with the bringing up of Slate is Slate's been one of the original people to know to hold a lot of numbers, and he's always staying in control. He's doing things like pedaling half track or pedaling early, and he's killing stuff where he needs to. He's not getting caught up in the race. That was my point of bringing him up. He has a lot of discipline in driving a race car, and I think that a lot of this excessive braking, again, it goes back to the younger guys. And what they're doing is they don't have the experience and they get caught up in the race and they say, oh, crap, there's the mile-an-hour cone. I still got to get rid of 7,
Yeah.
and they just get out. Well, that's not a way to do it if you're going, 570 or something like that,
Right.
or especially in a dragster. But we're working with mechanical components, especially brakes that work off hydraulics. One caliper could stay locked up, which I feel like is probably what happened to Shane's car. One caliper could get locked up if moisture gets in brake fluid. That causes all kinds of gumming up in there, and it could not release as fast. Well, when you're going 150 mile an hour, there's no room for error in that. If one tire locks up, or if you're a little out of the groove, or one tire slides and the other doesn't, I mean, that's how those pro mods crash all the time. They're spinning one tire out and one tire in. But could you, I guess, explain how do you safely hold that many numbers? Like, what do people, I'm not asking you to teach people how to race here for free. I'm just saying, like, can you explain to people, why can you not kill, like, let's just say you have an average car, 470 dragster, it's your typical big money car. You can't kill 7 numbers at the stride. What do you need to be doing? If you think you need to hold 7, what do you need to be doing to safely get rid of 7?
Well, if you're holding 7, you have to get rid of some early. Very early. And Johnny Ezel is a prime example of that. He's getting rid of something right after the 330 cone. When you give it, a rip right there, you're gonna kill a couple to 3. right there. That's half of it gone. And just you let the race unfold in front of you, and then you got to decide, am I going to, when you go by the tree, your mind's pretty much decided whether you're going to take the stripe or not. But unless the race unfolds and it tells you not to, so you have to, basically Luke teaches this. We've taught it with Luke, but you have to get rid of it. If you're holding 7, you have to get rid of some early. And as a young racer, long time ago, I used to stand on the brakes, and I've been on the brink of crashing a few times, but over the years I've learned that there's a safer way to do it. If you have to kill 3 late, there's a way to do it and not slide the tires. A lot of people, again, I'm gonna go to a lot of excessive braking is all about likes.
And I think one other thing to add into the conversation as we get back to the Flyer and the bit of racing the Flyer is the equipment that we race in. And I see that on Tuesday there's a test and tune and a Falk race car Dragster shootout. Talk to me about the Dragster shootout that seems to be taking over Flyers in the first place of big money magnitude, not to mention those with the name Falk, as Falk race cars have seemingly been giving up a couple of those cars this year. Talk to me about that race.
Yeah, Tuesday is Falk race cars, time trial Tuesday, and then we have the 128 car Falk Dragster race / Scoggin Dickey Parts Center race shop 582 or 598 headhunter motor. The winner gets their choice whether they want over a $25,000 race car or right at a $25,000 motor. In semis pays I think $1,000, and quarters actually get their $400 back. It's $400 entry. We have a sign up for that also. It's in I think it's in September.
No buybacks, folks. No buybacks.
Oh yeah, no buybacks.
Yes, sir.
But Brian and Nick, they've kind of taking the Dragster building to the extreme. I mean, every car I've seen that they've done, they were new at it less than 2 years ago, I think. We had Slate's car for about 6 months, and I was busy with Gulfport Dragway and didn't really have a lot of time just to go over the car and really see how nice it was. But after things settled down, I was helping him. He had the body off, and I was helping him, change a motor or something. And I'm like, good Lord, this thing is really, really nice. So now I'll look at every car that comes out, and I'll call them, what's new on this one? And every one has something new. And Dragster chassis, you can go 420s in a hardtail, you can go 420s in a suspended car. But the niceness of how a car is built, welded, put together, details, that's what makes a race car to me.
Buddy.
And Falk race cars has been around for a long time. The old man started it, didn't he, really, back in the day? Or was that always Nick's deal? Because I think Nick was too young to really do it back when I remember Ron running.
Yeah, the general, he started that business, and Brian came along, and Nick, and our families go way back, and we're a lot alike in a lot of ways. Brian, Ron, he'll get to drinking a few cocktails and telling stories. And he said, I had Brian and Nick when they started getting a little older. He said, okay, well, Brian is very good at this, and Nick is very good at this. So, I think Brian was the guy that was, welding the chassis and all that, and Nick was the one finishing them and putting them together. Brian is better at taking the phone calls and ordering parts than Nick is. So Nick, they just each have their own specialties, and it's worked for them. And the general, he might be kind of semi-retired, but he's never retired. He's like my dad. He's always sitting in the shop pointing that finger,
Yeah, mine's always in the shop doing something. He's probably in the shop right now doing something. As soon as he got my new car done, he went straight to McAmis and got another chassis kit to start another one. I was like, well, I guess this is this is where we need to find you, is out here in the corner at some point doing something. But Britt, what's your opinion on cap fields? Like, obviously, you have a cap field for the Great American Race for the 500K. How do you pick that number of cars? Like, how do you decide how many cars is too many? Because marathon races, no one likes being a part of those. We were talking about those right before you came on. 500, 600, 700 cars. You race at 8 in the morning. You don't make second round until you might not even make it that day. So do you think cap fields are the route that we're going to start needing to go with the participation level we're having?
I think at the bigger races from reputable promoters that capped is the way to go. You know, if you put on good races, paying good money, you do what the flyer says. If you open it up, I mean, Pete proved that at Galot. I mean, they had so many doggone entries, you know, and they did a very good job of running them. They got it all done, but man, it's hard on the staff. I mean, your staff has to rest. You have to charge radios, and you know nobody thinks about them things. You have to straighten the track. It's all the things that people don't see. Is why cap fields are great, and you know the racers is more about having a good time. Obviously, they're taking case to USA 500K. They're there for $500,000, and the Moser triple 40s. But they want to. It is a social event, and a drag race breaks out. You know, they want to finish early and cook out and drink a few cocktails and tell stories. You know. And with cap races, barring any weather, you can accomplish that for the racers.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense too, and I'm glad it came out of your mouth. I think Casey and I have been talking about that for a while now. As another aspect of racing the flyer is just that ability to, when you show up at the racetrack, you know your buddy's going to be there with his buddies and other buddies of acquaintances that you have. And that makes being at the racetrack that much better. I know at the Atchison camp, all of y'all going to smell what the Rock is cooking over there. It's going to be a deep fried chicken or some barbecue going on somewhere close. And don't come over there asking for no food now. I might have to DDT somebody, but hey, you know, my aunt, she'll probably offer everybody a plate. That's just how it works. You know what I mean? And why we love being at the racetrack so much. Where I met Casey, I'm pretty sure we had our hot dogs and things of that nature back in the day. So excellent job with this flyer from what I can see. I'm very, very excited to see another race in Montgomery, Alabama, and see that track actually thriving the way that it is now. Any comments on the racing surface, what you guys are expecting as far as for probably perfection? I don't want to speak for you, however.
Well, I mean, at the bigger races like that time of the year, we feel very safe bringing in Brandon Mass at any time. He's once again scheduled to come in. There's no one that works as hard at the racetrack during an event than Brandon Mass. I mean, he's working the whole time he's there. And, you know, there's sometimes I'm like, man, do we really need to do this round? And he's like, yes, we do. And, you know, now having a racetrack ourselves at Gulfport, I kind of see that. But having him there is kind of like just having an insurance policy. You don't have to worry about it. We raced the Guaranteed Million in Montgomery in November, which they said couldn't be done. It was 39 degrees, and all I kept seeing was dead on, dead on, dead on, dead on, dead on, dead on. You know, so that myth is busted. And to answer your question, you had asked, what is the right amount of cars, Casey? You just look at, you know, what time do you want to start and what time do you want to finish, and you plug them numbers in, and it spits out a time, how long it should take to run that many. You know, typically without a time run, you know, new entry time run only, I like to see one done in 12 to 13 hours. And there's ways of getting that done, even with hiccups in the system or a little bit of weather. It's not always how you start, it's how you finish. You just have to stick to what you know how to do, and kind of what we do. We just do us our own way. You know, we bring in our own staff. A lot of them on the racetrack now. We have Frank Kahutek. He's our race director, our eyes in the sky, which allows Galen, myself, and Tommy to be out there with the racers down in the trenches, running the staging lanes, or mopping the starting line, or whatever we see needs to be done. That's what Frank allows us to do.
And that's what I meant earlier when I was saying racers running the program, is people like going off of what you said earlier, Gulfport Dragway. I know obviously you guys have been doing a lot of improvements to that over the 1-2 years you guys have all been involved with that. But do you think, do you think that now running a track and being you, Tommy, and Galen are all the #1 guys for that track, do you think that's helping your promotional abilities, even though everything was pretty much ironed out? Is that giving you one more aspect to understand at a level you didn't understand before?
Oh, for sure. There's things that I thought I knew that I didn't know. And there's things that we've implemented that wasn't in place that we know as racers has to be done. So, it's kind of a 50-50 deal.
Right. Now,
case in point, we hosted our first small tire Gulfport Dragway $20,000 small tire race the Saturday after Thanksgiving. We had, with all the classes there, we had about 110 cars, I believe. But we started the drivers meeting at 11:30, and we were done by dark.
Wow.
Kind of unheard of in the no prep world.
Yeah, they race till 3 days from now.
Right. Joey Rabbiola won that from Chicago, and he said, I was kind of the guinea pig from up in our area to come down because we've been burnt so many times on guaranteed purses, #1. He said, but knowing now what I know, y'all are the real deal, and my God, I love how y'all run a program. This is nice. We get to hang out now and get an early start in the morning on the way home. So we're bringing that to the no prep world also, which, bigger and better things to come as far as that at Gulfport Dragway, with this new tracks resurfacing and milling process we're doing, and next to be guardrails, our big ticket item. We'll be able to host whatever we want to host now and do it our way.
Awesome. And I know right after this show's over, I know you're getting over on the GABR page and you're going live with old Buddy Farrell, one of the original big money guys from back in the day, one of the legendary guys like yourself, your brother, from way back when. And, he would have been back with Danny Nelson even, right? Like way back, original big money guy. So what's on the agenda for that show?
Man, I'm kind of starstruck getting to interview him. I got 2 pages of questions. Tommy's got questions. Galen has questions. Just Buddy is a good guy all the way around, and to do what he's done as long as he's done it, I would love to know his secret to success. I'm only 55 now, and I know I've lost 2 or 3 steps, and Buddy, for real, has not.
Yeah, in the Megabucks days, I know it was always, first of all, Buddy would be dialed 503 in the red Dragster, and he'd always go 503. You'd know he'd win a day, and Danny Nelson would win a day, and if you could get in on the other day, you were happy.
Yep. When you run Buddy, man, you better be anywhere from 006 or better and low dead on to even have a chance.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a fact, because he is for real. So, Britt, I'm going to flash that flyer across the screen for everybody to get a look at. Any closing remarks on the upcoming Great American USA 500K presented by Mosier, going on October 15th through the 19th of this year, 2024? Anything you'd like to add in on this particular event?
Yes, I would. If you look down on the Mosier 40Ks, if you look to the left side of the flyer, we are going to take an additional 100 entries for the side races. There will be a sign up for that also. That is for the guys, that can't, for one reason or another, cannot get in the 500K. We've always had people begging for us to let them open up the side races, even though they can't run the big race. So we feel as though we can take 100 more entries and still complete them races in a timely fashion, and give them guys a chance on the big stage. And, if they win enough money and with the round money and stuff, they could possibly enter the 500K while they're there. And also, it's coming off of the Mike Smith Memorial Race the weekend before. So, like I said, we start on Tuesday, Moser Triple 40s. One last thing I'll be announcing in the next week, where the FTI Racers Appreciation Party is not just a party, it's going to be parties. It's going to go over a couple of days.
That sounds like fun right there.
Yeah.
Everybody heard
And
that.
that's all I can say about it. I mean, we're bringing back something from the past, is all I can say. My wife is parroting me. She thinks I'm going to slip up.
He's not going to slip up. Hey, just let him slip up. This is the best place to slip up anyway. The old GBR. Come on, slip up.
I've got to hold this one tight to me, but everybody's going to like it, especially Chris and Bob Galetti.
Oh, man. So if you guys were wondering, when I showed the flyer, what he's talking about is in yellow on the left. It says events registration. If you read down just a little bit, it'll talk to you about the registration and that extra new in 2024, 100 extra entries going in. And things of that nature. So that's awesome. Definitely have heard a few times people mention, I might not be able to get into the 500K, but man, I'd love to get in those 40s. And next thing you know, those are sold out. Good remedy, guys. Good remedy. Yep.
Yeah, we're testing the water. I think it's going to give a lot of guys the opportunity. We will have Motor Mania there. Brandon Mass, Brad Wheeler and staff, the whole Great American staff from Frank Tech. We bring our own medic, Scotty. We bring Jeff, our starter. We bring old Larry on the mop. Larry burns more fuel in a track blowers than anybody I know. I think he went through 2 drums of regular gas in the blowers at Holly Springs at the Dream Team.
Whatever it takes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, I appreciate y'all guys. Remember, everybody, July 9th, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. Everybody I've talked to says they're coming and they're going to enter.
And that's at greatamericanbracketraces.com, right, where everybody can go in and get entered into the race.
Yes, and we'll be posting links for it also on the Facebook page, direct links to it. And if anybody has any problems, or think they're going to have problems, there is some people, that don't have good internet service. There's some people that's just old and don't know how to do it. We'll help y'all through the process. Just contact us before it happens, and we can walk y'all along and give y'all a hand.
Well, I heard
Awesome,
that.
man.
I heard
we
that.
appreciate you coming on the show with us, and everybody, don't forget Great American Bracket Races Facebook page if you want to see one of the living legends. It's on the hat right there. Want to see one of the living legends and tell some stories about, I don't know what they're going to ask about, but I'm sure it'll be good. I might actually save it so I can listen to it and get through work tomorrow, to be honest with you. But a couple hours, get over there on that Facebook page. You'll be impressed and you won't be disappointed.
Yeah, I don't even know if I'm going to do my drinking game tonight. I'm a little bit under the weather. I know Buddy don't drink. He said he could have somebody there to take a drink with me whenever somebody says the key word, which, by the way, is July 9th again this week. But it's just being able to interview Buddy, and I don't even have a costume for it. There's nothing I can do that'll probably shock him. So, but thank y'all guys. Appreciate it.
Oh, that's anytime,
Absolutely.
guys. Thanks
you.
for joining in on another episode 160 here at Going Bracket Racing, and we will see you guys again next Tuesday. Have a good one. Drive safe. Be safe on the holidays, and watch out if you're out in that hurricane anywhere. It's getting a little rough over there in the islands, so be safe, everybody. See you later.
Thank y'all.